Olympians dominated the 2024 Street Line Skate Tournament, which took place over the weekend out in the nation's capital. Now, Brandon Valjalo, I'll get it right. I'm going to ask him, as well as Boipelo Awuah, defended their titles respectively in an event which saw 70 skateboarders from across the country competing in the women's and men's categories. Now, we've roped in Brandon as well as Ryan van der Spuy, who is the Street Line organizer, to talk about this past weekend's tournament. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Morning. Thanks for having us.
Brandon, I want to start with you. You were out at the Paris Olympics earlier on this year. Speak to me about how that experience was for you. We know we didn't medal, but just the experience and where it takes you now in your direction out in skateboarding.
Most definitely. First things, thank you for having me. Speaking about the Olympics and going into that, the incredible experience this time around, going into Paris, where there were actually spectators, there was energy, there was a crowd, there was so much fun going around the whole city of Paris, and also not being in stadiums and being in those beautiful venues was insane, to be honest. There's no words that can put it into the way that it feels, you know. Comparing the two of competing during COVID and that, it's an honor to obviously be able to be out there and represent South Africa 2 times at the Olympics and seeing progression in the results. So I feel hungry and motivated to go back and keep pushing going in towards LA and see if we can actually get to that final top 8 spots and then battle it out for a medal the next time around.
Well, we look forward to seeing you out in LA come 2028. Let's speak to you now, because we look at this year's tournament, which you hosted, participation numbers much higher. Speak to me about what made this time around very different from the past, and how you're feeling about the direction you're taking.
Yeah, I think Street Lines is just incredible how the event has grown so quickly. I mean, it's the 4th year we've hosted the event. It's become the biggest skateboarding event in the country. For us, it's important to have the events and have that platform for skaters to showcase their skills. You know, having the women's category and the men's category. So this year we had 70 skaters in total. We had to cap it at that amount just to be able to finish the event in one day. There was a lot more skaters that wanted to skate, so we'll see how we can progress it for next year. But it's important for us to, you know, have the likes of Brandon and Boipelo there and give local skaters opportunity to skate against Olympians and get the feel for competition, see what's possible, and how they can grow themselves into becoming possible Olympians one day.
Indeed. Let's speak about something, Brandon, because you mentioned this was your 2nd time out at the Olympics. When you look at the difference in level versus the rest of the world for us as South African skaters, what kind of a gap would you say there is, and how are you feeling about that? And is that something that makes you want to be more involved in international competitions?
Most definitely. So for me, looking at the progression of my skateboarding, it definitely did elevate when I was on the international stage or when I was traveling to be able to compete. So looking at the gap between the South African level, we do have really talented skateboarders, and I think it actually just comes down to having those international grade facilities, that the way that everything is built is very specific at international contests, that if you're able to apply the tricks that you've learned to that standard and that level of obstacles, I think we definitely have the potential to have the best in the world and have Olympic gold medalists coming from South Africa. But it's just going to take a bit of time when it comes down to building those facilities. But regardless of that, with what we have and what we do have is streets ahead the rest of Africa. So I feel like we do have an opportunity in that sense, and we do have really talented and really great skateboarders. But to bridge that gap, we will need to bring either international competition to South Africa, or we need the guys from South Africa to have more of that experience going out there competing against the rest of the world, because it's not just about being able to skate, it's also about making it happen in those specific moments that you have to make it count, and being able to realize that pressure is a privilege and pressure makes diamonds. So
I love that.
That's what
Pressure
it comes
is
down
always
to.
a privilege.
Yeah.
Ryan, let's talk about, having done the event this past weekend, are you feeling that there's more of a need and a desire for more high-end events such as this past weekend out here locally?
I think it's hugely important to have more events like this happening throughout the year around the country. It needs to happen not only for the sport and the culture of skateboarding, but like Brandon mentioned, just to progress the sport locally. I mean, if we can have more high-end events, bring some international athletes in to compete with local skaters, and, you know, just progress the sport, it's important. At the same time, we also need better and bigger facilities, to match what guys are skating internationally, to show local skaters what needs to be done and what type of courses they need to skate.
And Brandon, I just want to ask you, so you get into skateboarding, firstly, what does everyone in your family say? Is it something that they supported, or is it something that were just like, oh, as long as you do it as a hobby and you have a real career? What was that conversation like?
I mean, so, excuse me, initially I played all the traditional sports at school, and I had scholarships to play the cricket and the soccer and the rugby. And my brother was also first team in his school in all the sports. So we did grow up with that traditional sport kind of focus. And me kind of having skateboarding as my hobby since I was really young. I grabbed a board when I was 3 years old. For me, it was that escape, that thing I was doing for myself, and that place where I was able to create my own reality and express my emotions in a specific way, where there was no boundaries or limits to what I had. For me, growing up, it was always looking at the international guys to be able to see what I could do or what my level looked like compared to theirs. And I'd be on YouTube searching 9-year-old best skateboarder in the world, trying to
9-year-old.
exactly, like trying to see if I had any competition. But then it eventually just got to a point where I was just comparing myself and trying to learn these new tricks all the time. And yeah, for me, skateboarding is something that you can't really put any limits on it. But having a platform like Streetlines and having that competition to not only just bring the community together, but also give us a platform to showcase the talent is something that South African skateboarding really needs.
And I suppose, Ryan, it then leads me to my next question. For the parents sitting at home and watching, I mean, yes, Brandon was fortunate enough to grow up in a family where sport was supported. But for a young kid sitting at home and whose parents are just like, no, you can't become a skateboarder as a profession. You need to do something else. What do you say to that young kid and to the parents as well?
I mean, why not? Look at what Brandon and Boipelo have done. I mean, skateboarding is such an awesome sport. It's got such a cool community behind it. There's skate parks around the country. Get the kids there, let them have fun, let them become a part of the sport, which is an Olympic sport now. So why not? I mean, it's better than sitting at home on a device, isn't it?
You touch on Boipelo. Are you seeing a lot of diversity coming through as well in your tournaments?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a huge diversity in Streetlines, which is something we're really proud of. I mean, having skaters from all over the country, men and women, full diversity, different age groups, it's something that's important to us and something we're proud of.
All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. Brandon, congratulations on defending your title. Just tell me your surname.
It's Valjalo.
Valjalo. Oh, I did get it right.
Yeah, you killed
Thank
it.
you so much for joining us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, being joined by Brandon Valjalo as well as Ryan van der Spuy, who is the Streetline organizer, talking about this past weekend's tournament, and of course, Brandon successfully defending his title out there.